Hey everybody, welcome back to the Financial Lit Podcast. Today I have a very special guest joining us again, this time for the first time in person. He flew all the way down here from LA. Thank you, brother. Jesse Tam, owner and operator of MMS Auto Sports. Thanks for coming on the show, bro.
Absolutely. It's been a long time coming because we've known each other for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And we were just waiting for an opportunity to kind of find out when our schedules align, because what we're trying to do is provide a solution for a lot of people that need some help.
Absolutely.
Right now, right? And so I think what we're going to have is just a conversation of what a small business owner, what their realm is, what they're dealing with, and kind of like the solutions that we all have access to, that we're trying to build access to for everybody.
Exactly.
Right. And so I guess, how should we do this? Should I just start off kind of like where I'm at, where my head's at?
Yeah. Let's give us some background of your business, where you guys are, what you guys are doing, what you're focused on right now.
So I came into the company, I started with my partner. The company was already around for about 3 years, and it was an industrial park in Compton. So think about it, like it was in an area where you wouldn't know someone was working on cars there. So it got started off word of mouth, reputation, brand building. And so grassroots, like everything that was built up was from scratch. There was no extra funding or money involved. It's just straight from scratch and word of mouth. And so when you start that small, you can always kind of rely on yourself, right? But if you want to grow it into something bigger, things start coming in, and you have to start growing because you want to do something bigger that you can do yourself, essentially. And so that was going on for 3 years, and I came off my employment career. I had a dealership for about 12 years as a mechanic, and joined on board. And I saw what he was doing. Like he wanted to run the business the way he wanted to run. And so he wanted to bring somebody in because he needed more help to basically grow it into a company that he wants. Start scaling. And so the struggles of learning small business is like, I listed a few points, is because when you start growing your reputation, more businesses coming in. And so with more business coming in, you're going to have to buy more equipment. You're going to have to buy more tools. You're going to have to pay for more marketing. You're going to have to pay for computers, pens, parts, restroom supplies, all the fixings, the whole gambit, all the fixings. And so quickly it becomes a thing where the business is going to outrun your performance by itself, right?
Right.
And so as you're growing, you're going to need more things and more things. And you yourself or two people only have so much capital, right? So you're trying to create all this capital within those four walls by yourself or with your small team to grow it to something more, which is very slow because we only have so much money, right? And so very quickly, our reputation grew because we had a great brand and our service was great. And more business started coming.
Nice.
Essentially, when we wanted to grow, we had to get into a better area.
Yeah.
And so that opportunity came, and we took it, and we spent a big chunk of our change just to move. And we took unfinished work with us over there.
Wow.
So we had to buy, we had to prep the new place. We had to redo the garages. We had to strip the floor. We had to install the lifts.
Damn, straight new renovations.
New renovations. We had to build a customer waiting area, custom counters, because we wanted to change the game as far as what automotive service was. You want to differentiate yourself from other small businesses.
Outstanding.
And so in order to do that, you're spending a lot of money or whatnot. And during that time, we had some access to capital. There was an EIDL loan or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so we used some of that money to get going. Then we started hiring talent. Before I was doing all the mechanic work. Then we brought in more mechanics, and then I moved into like a service writer role, right?
Nice.
And then we slided in more mechanics. With more mechanics, it's like, oh, now it's not just one mechanic needing like shop supplies. Now it's 3.
You might need
like,
more bays.
Yep. We actually bought a new lift too.
Oh, nice.
To just add more capacity because our business was growing. And so now we're at the point where we got all our systems and processes where, hey, if we just fine tune it good enough, essentially we're going to make this net positive outcome, which is what we wanted to build it to. So what's the next step? Do you just want to work in just one shop? One shop for the rest of your life? Or did you want to scale it up? Get second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. Doing that is easier said than done, right? Like everything that I just mentioned to you, you have to do it again and again and again and again.
Absolutely.
Essentially, if you do it right, you can do a cookie cutter model. Like I went through all of this already. I had to work with the city to get the business license. I had to work with work with our vendors to get new accounts. We had to get this type of scanning equipment to work on new types of vehicles, Mercedes, Audi, whatever you have you. So
all that stuff costs money.
All that stuff costs money. And so what's the struggle here? You get this, you work so hard to get this about 20% net if you do it right.
Right.
And now you're going to have to take that and try to make your moves as far as either expansion or making the shop bigger. But that's just having that small portion if you haven't had a nest egg for a long time, or if you had a nest egg for a long time, that kind of gets wiped out right away if you're expanding. So what are your options? You go out and go get a loan, right? Access to capital. Unless you have like a storied history of the books of long time business, you'll get what you get unless there's an EIDL loan or special circumstances, or you get something from a bank. Right. And then hopefully, if nothing changes in the realm of business, you apply that same model and you make that 20% net to where it's not about the percentage per se, but how much dollar net total that you can accumulate.
Correct.
To make bigger moves, bigger assets. But
absolutely,
what we're talking about right now is we're dealing with inflation. We're dealing with supply chain issues. We're talking about dollar devaluation, and then there's unemployment's about to run out for a lot of people. Correct. People are going to be hurting, and prices going to be changing, and so
they're just going up.
What we're kind of building to is like, okay, I got my system and process. If I just do this over and over and over again, essentially, we got 5 cash flowing businesses, and we can really make some moves, right?
Correct.
But the world is not perfect; it's constantly changing, and what I mean by constantly changing is it's constantly harder to make capital and keep capital.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taxes going up, so parts going up. So the vendors getting worth less. Dollars getting worth less. So all these vendors are more and more expensive. So that's why we're here to kind of talk about, like, talk it out, just express it out loud, and what we've been working on for how long now. And I'm excited to talk about what we can bring to the table, which is kind of like a digital wallet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's version 2 of the IBA Mobile App is what's coming out now. And what the IBA Mobile App is, so a lot of people understand what stable coins are. And if you want to go with that framework to think about what I'm about to explain, it would help you think about stable coins. But this is something squarely outside of that jurisdiction. We're naming it stable koinonia because it's an ecclesiastical term in an ecclesiastical jurisdiction. Yeah. But essentially what we're doing is our wallet has the ability to hold stable coins or cryptocurrencies or stablecoin ANIAs, and we have the ability to transact in that wallet, business to business or person to person, for services or goods. And those transactions are actually qualified capital. That means they're mandatorily tax accepted.
Yeah.
So as a small business owner who's fighting tooth and nail to get 20% net in order to get that to expand their business year over year, it would make a lot of sense for that business to utilize every way they possibly can to reduce their taxable liability first and foremost, because that's going to increase that net that they get to take home. And that's going to be able to allow them to expand that back into the business. So what we're trying to get people to understand is, as a business owner, if you had an iCovesting account in this mobile app version 2, and you wanted to store your fiat currency in actual money, i.e. gold or silver, or you wanted to represent it in a digital representation of that dollar, which we're calling ICO dollar, you now have the ability to store your wealth that way. Now, me as a business owner, let's say you have a piece of heavy equipment like that lift. Let's say that lift, you've had it for over a year now. Okay, let's say that lift costs you $25,000. Right. And now you're selling it. The market has changed. Dollars are worth less, and all of a sudden that same lift is worth $75,000. Right. So you have a $50,000 capital gain that you're going to incur. Or I'm sorry, you have a $50,000 capital gain that you're going to have to be taxed against. That $50,000 is taxed at 47.5% thanks to Biden's new tax plan for capital gains. So for you as a business owner, roughly half, roughly $25,000 of that is going to be going to taxes and not in your pocket. So how could you mitigate that so that you could use more of that money to help you expand the business? Well, me as a business that wants to buy your lift, if I was to pay for it in cash, you just realized the capital gain, $25K of that goes to taxes. However, if I have an iCovesting account and you have an iCovesting account and you accept ICO dollars and I have ICO dollars to pay with, now all of a sudden this is a mandatorily tax accepted transaction. So now your $50,000 in capital gains is not actually a $50,000 capital gain taxable event, not in any way, shape, or form. It's squarely outside of the commercial jurisdiction altogether. In fact, it's mandatorily tax accepted. So as a small business owner, you just created $25,000 out of thin air that you were already ready, willing, and able to pay to the government, and you get to keep that back in your pocket to help you expand your business. Now, if you, as a business owner, could get your vendors, for example, or anybody that you do business with in that capacity to understand that it's not only in your best interest, but it's in their best interest as well to learn how to operate their business in this realm. You accept dollars all day. You accept credit cards all day, right? Some people are even accepting Bitcoins. If you as a business owner accept ICO dollar or ICO AG, silver, or ICO AU, gold, and you accept those digital representations, business to business, there's no taxation on that whatsoever. So if you expound that into your other business units, depending on what type of business you have or how large your business is, you have the opportunity to have a conversation with each one of your vendors or people that you're buying heavy equipment from or anything like that. And then you can get them to understand that this would help you and them.
So kind of how I think about it is the vendors that we deal with on a day-to-day basis or versus like one-time big purchases like a company that will sell lift or whatnot. So essentially, hey, that lift that they bought, like that they buy it wholesale or either they make it themselves, they buy the supplies and they get it at this wholesale price. As a business, you're supposed to mark it up to have a profit, right?
Correct.
And so if you essentially sell it to me, you're gonna have to pay a profit tax on it when you sell it to me.
That's a taxable event if we use dollars.
So essentially, if it's a ICO dollar transaction, that tax that they had to pay they can keep it, and then also I wouldn't have to pay a sales tax when I purchase it.
Correct. On both sides of the equation.
Sides,
So are mandatory tax accepted. Yeah, there's no sales tax incurred on the other side as well. You're correct.
Absolutely. So that changes the game, because for any business, any small business, is like you can your business within your four walls can only do so much, right? So
within the rules as they're stated.
Within the rules. So the dilemma is like, you can only do so much, right? So what's the strategy? What can you do that you already have kind of going on to keep more instead, right? Because you already max your potential of how much you can do until you scale, right? If you kind of always go in the realm of how much more money I can make, but you turn a blind eye to how much you're bleeding,
right?
You know, hey, like, just within your normal day operations doing the same thing, if you kind of change how you transact or whatnot, you get to keep more money.
Absolutely.
And then that 20% essentially is that's an increase right there. And instead of only having so much this amount of capital, you'll have access to more capital, which is, with access to more capital, you have more opportunities.
Absolutely. And this is just the latest cutting edge thing that we're doing. This is the foot in the door for the business owners to understand why they want to operate in trust to begin with, why they want to store their wealth in a vehicle like this, and the other possibilities of what they could use this vehicle for. Because ultimately, I mean, you are aware, I'm aware, you know, the people of our cash flow family are aware that we're using our real money, silver and gold positions to syndicate wealth together to acquire assets that cash flow. Now, when a trust like ours, that's mandatorily tax accepted, 508c1a, acquires assets that cash flow, and it remits royalty rewards back to the members of the trust who helped syndicate that money in the first place for the acquisition, none of that's a taxable event for anybody involved. So you, as a small business owner, let's say you had, in the example before, you just saved yourself a $25,000 tax bill, and you have $25,000 of this value that you can stick somewhere to try to create more capital for your business to expand faster. You know, are you going to wait every time you have some incurred capital gains tax to be able to run this model? I mean, you could, but you don't have to. You could take that and syndicate that wealth with us in our other cooperative procurement opportunities. We have different ones, whether it's whole life insurance syndication for the cash value position, or if it's real estate syndication, or even if it's just a small business syndication to try to scale something we believe in. When you participate this way, you're remitting royalties back to your iCovesting account. And you can remit them back in the form of ICO dollar, ICO silver, ICO gold, you know, AUAG. And then you have the ability to do what you want. If there's other businesses like yours that accept ICO dollar, by all means, transact that way. It's still mandatorily tax accepted. Even if it was just, hey, like any service, if it was a small business service, you know, literally anything that you're going to transact on is going to be mandatory tax accepted. So that helps you create other streams of cash flow outside of your bread and butter business that you got into the business to do, by means of creating assets that are cash flowing for you. So you have multiple streams, so that you don't have to necessarily trade your time for dollars so much like you're doing in your business. Because ultimately you want to scale that business enough to free your time up, right? I mean, that's everybody's goal as a business owner. They're trying to, it's the American dream, right? So
like, exactly.
We're trying to help people realize that dream, because what most people have found is it's getting harder and harder and harder to realize the quote unquote American dream, especially with the way the economy's going, the way our fiat dollar is devaluing, with all of the administration changes coming from the top down. So if we can help somebody, and we're not talking like the top 1% or the wealthiest people in America. We're talking about Main Street America, people that aren't accredited investors, right? We're just regular small business owners that are scraping by, that working hard, they're doing everything they can to make sure that 20% is right every year. And it's still hard to expand. You know, most businesses go out of business in the first 5 years because the game isn't set up for you, it's set up against you. But if we can give you tools like this, then it just kind of sets the game on an even playing field, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Just everything that you expounded on is the more opportunity or the more capital that a small business can have, essentially it just creates a good environment for the main street to be more opulent. Like a lot of people are struggling with all these restrictions of the shutdowns or whatnot, and the more and more restrictions happen, the more that things are more expensive. It's hard to keep up, right? And so that type of leveling of the playing field, or having access to play in that type of realm,
Right.
changes everything, because those small businesses are the backbone of the economy.
Absolutely.
And if there's no people running these small businesses, it's all going to be the big corporations.
Correct.
Who got the most rich with all these lockdowns and shutdowns is like the big corporations. It was Amazon, it was Target, Walmart, all these things. But the mom and pop shops that had to close down, it was a lot of it. It was just that was it for it.
Correct.
So that's how much small businesses are struggling.
They're tight.
And so to bring this to the table is super exciting, not just on my part, because I feel a camaraderie with small business owners, because they're fighting tooth and nail to provide a good place for people to work.
Correct.
Because essentially not everyone is going to go out there and create a small business.
Correct. Yeah.
And it's either they're going to work for you, or they're going to work for the big corporations, right? And I'm rooting for the little guys.
Same.
Because if the little guys come together, we can be very strong. And that's essentially what iCovest does as well.
Absolutely.
And so another thing that I want to talk about is you mentioned about ICO dollar, right?
Okay.
And so just to talk about how easy it is for small businesses as far as this concept, when you say ICO dollar, it means your fiat cash, to convert it to a ICO dollar essentially within this wallet.
Correct.
And within this wallet, it can be a one-to-one relationship to an ICO.
Yeah. It's a one-to-one relationship to the dollar.
To the dollar.
The
yes.
ICO dollar is pegged directly to the dollar.
Yep.
ICO AG, which is silver, is pegged directly to silver, and ICO AU is pegged directly to gold.
Yep. So that's kind of like we're not telling you to get rid of your dollar or whatnot. Like you can use this dollar within this realm of the other jurisdiction without having to pay taxes, right?
And it's a one-to-one.
Yeah.
So if you're one of the people that are confident in the fiat system for whatever reason that you may have that sentiment, and you want to stick in your high checking and savings and 401ks and everything's in this cash value position, you're confident in that and you don't want to protect it any other way, then this is perfect for you. Because now, if you had $1,000 in your savings account and you put $1,000 into ICO dollar, they're the exact same.
Yeah.
You just stored some of it in this digital representation with the idea that I'm going to use it for a purpose. That purpose might be to help some tax mitigation strategy like we were explaining earlier, or that purpose might be simply to syndicate that with other people to acquire assets that cash flow on a toll-free, tax-accepted road.
Yep.
You know?
And then you also mentioned about whole life insurance, right? And that portion of, to my understanding as a small business owner, of what's kind of available is, hey, when I go out and I want to scale and I want to buy more equipment or possibly expand to a new location, I need to get out a loan unless I have all that like ready to go, right?
True.
Which I don't. And so to as far as what whole life insurance kind of brings to the table, it's a community that comes together that creates a non-bank financial institution, NBFI. And so essentially you have the community has created a bank, and you can go participate and go to this bank that was created and essentially get that loan from there.
Yeah.
And when we recourse the loan, not only does it just go back to the iCovesting community, if you're a participant, you're essentially putting money in the piggy bank as far as because you're going to be a participant too.
Right.
So think about it. Like in the realm of fiat currency, when I was an employee, I had a 401k. Essentially, you can take a loan out against your 401k,
Right.
but it depletes your principal.
Always.
And so what we've learned
Resets
is
that compounding interest.
Yeah. And so what we've learned is when you go with whole life insurance, you are not depleting the principal.
Correct.
But you still have the advantage of having access to that capital.
Yes, because you're leveraging the cash value position.
Yep.
So you never reset your compound growth because you never took it out. You just leveraged it. You put a note against it and you pay that off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So think about a small business kind of puts away a nest egg in a bank account. It's like, oh, I'm going to use this to scale, or I'm going to use this in combination with a loan to scale. But how about if that nest egg was put into a whole life insurance account, right?
Correct.
And
in the
also,
cash value position.
In the cash value position, and then now you still have a account that's growing essentially traditionally 2 to 8% on its own.
Right.
And then you still have access to the capital. And so you can leverage it out to make whatever moves you want as a small business owner. And then the principal that you're paying back is essentially actually accelerating the growth of that account. And so instead of getting money through the SBA or another bank, hey, I'm just going to bank with myself.
Correct.
Or a community that participates in it. And guess what? All the money that you make off of that money that was borrowed, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, that is tax-free as well.
Tax accepted.
Accepted.
It's tax accepted. That's trust of business. That's mandatory tax accepted. Yeah. So the community in the trust for the NBFI that you're explaining, non-banking financial institution, is the community coming together to syndicate whole life insurance policies on individuals. We're paying for the entire policy for that individual. We're keeping it in force every month as a community, and that's a free policy to that person. So why would they let us do that for them? Obviously, it's a free policy for them. 20% of the death benefit is going to go to their family when they die, and it's just free and clear for them. The rest of it, the other 80%, is going to come to the community that helped keep the bill alive for the entire time. So that's a cash flow vehicle because we helped that person because they didn't have any other means of helping their family at the end of their life. We got them a free policy. They helped our community by helping us seed the rest of that into our community into this cash value position. So as this is growing and growing and growing, as we have payouts, this is the function that the non-banking financial institution uses to generate its capital so that we can then leverage that position and acquire things. So you, for example, if you wanted to get some heavy machinery, right, and you didn't have the money for it, how could you do this if you had an ICO dollar position, right? You have an ICO dollar position in your IVA account. You could either take the ICO dollar and use it and just do, like we said earlier, transact with the other person that has an IVA account, or you can leverage your ICO dollar position against this whole life insurance syndication that the Cashflow family has set up. So now, how much did you need? Do you need X amount? We will leverage that from this cash position, give it right over to you. You're going to put up your ICO dollar, your digital representation. Now, that money to us as a community costs us 2.5%. We're going to charge you, the business owner, 5% on the leverage, right? And business loans right now are ranging anywhere from 5 to 29%, depending on your credit. So like, that's not a crazy interest rate, right? So like, you're 5%, which is phenomenal. And then you, since you could be, in this scenario you are, you're a participant in our whole life insurance. So it only benefits you to pay yourself back at a higher rate than what you're obligated to. So if the note says you got to give us 5% minimum, and you're like, well, okay, well, 5% is a great rate. I can actually afford 7.5%. I'm going to go ahead and pay myself back at 7.5% because it's only helping my compound growth rates principal position get larger. Right? So as you leveraged your ICO position, you got the capital released to go ahead and get that piece of equipment or whatever it was you needed. And now that increased your productivity in your business accordingly. Now you have more cash flow from the business, from the employees or whatever, to help you recourse that loan, right? It's not a loan, it's a leverage technically. Loans are commercially regulated, we're not. But you leverage and you recourse that leverage, and you know, everything's kosher. Once it's recoursed, your ICO dollar position is now satisfied in your account, and the leverage is done. And you had no out-of-pocket dollars to be able to technically acquire that piece of equipment that increased your productivity, that allowed you to pay off that leverage. And it's all mandatorily tax accepted. So.
And just to hear that as a small business owner, it's insane. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Because
so can it actually work that way? Yeah, it actually works that way.
Yeah. And so like the struggle of a small business is like, for the longest time, a lot of people, like, they deal with bad credit or whatnot, and they've always used a cash position to essentially, the more you grow in business, you find out you can't do business that way. You have to be able to get, you have to use other people's money. It's not like I'm doing anything vile or like wrong. It's other people's money can be the bank's money as well, which is you're getting a loan. Yeah. But if you're constantly taking from yourself, depleting your own principal, you're always gonna be like knocked down a peg to where you can't scale fast enough. For sure. In order to scale fast enough, you have to have access to capital.
Yeah, you gotta use the velocity of money.
Velocity of money. And a lot of people will take a loan from the bank, but hey, if you're playing in the commercial jurisdiction, you're talking about paying taxes and everything. Correct. But if you play in this realm outside of that jurisdiction, you're mandatorily tax accepted, and everything is, you know, you're not breaking the law or whatnot because you're not operating in the commercial
you're
jurisdiction.
Lawfully and legally operating the way that the wealthy, the rich have operated forever. You know, most people think that they are diversified because they have a checking, a savings, stocks, bonds, you know, different investment vehicles, or maybe they're whatever it is they're in, and they think that they're in a very diversified position because they are sitting with their finances that way, looking over their portfolio. I would challenge them to say that you are not diversified at all. All of your eggs are in the same basket, and that basket is a fiat position, commercially regulated, and able to be confiscated as such by the authority that you're operating within. And most people operate that way, right? I would say, but most people aren't wealthy. That's not how the wealthy operate. The wealthy play the game different. The wealthy have a separate jurisdiction. If you looked at it like a pie chart, you know, and then like commercials over here, that's where you're playing. The wealthy play over here. They direct all their capital into the commercial jurisdiction, and they create cash flow, and then they direct that cash flow out of the commercial jurisdiction into their offshore bank accounts, or you know, they have different trusts, different family offices that cost a lot of money to set up, you know, and they have the ability to take that money outside of it and protect it so that they don't have to pay all the taxes on it. And then now that they have more, they'll seed it back into the commercial jurisdiction and rinse, lather, repeat, back and forth. That is true diversification across jurisdictions. Now, most people can't do that because they're not billionaires. They don't have enough money to have a trust enforced or a family office enforced or any of those kinds of things. They're not the U.S. citizens. They don't have offshore bank accounts. You know what I mean? Like, so how do they play? Well, we have a third jurisdiction to play in. It's an ecclesiastical trust. And you don't have to be a billionaire or an accredited investor to play with us. All you have to do is open an iCovesting account, which is 21 ounces of silver. That's it. You do that, it's like $1,000 at market value today. You know, if you can do that, then you can play in the game. And you're playing in the game is you're storing your wealth in this jurisdiction. Take your fiat dollars out of your checking or savings or 401k or whatever you think is a good investment bet for you. Seed it over here into a co-investment, which is not commercially regulated, and store it there. Store it there, leverage it there. Like, this is how you're going to be able to get ahead as a person or even a small business owner, because you are going to be able to take that capital and you're going to be able to seed it in the commercial jurisdiction the same way the wealthy and the elite do, in the form of whole life insurance syndications, real estate syndications, business acquisitions, all of these things that they do. you can participate in now.
Yep.
And you can syndicate with us, and all of the cash flows that we create, we will direct them back into your iCovesting account, which is mandatorily tax accepted under 508c1a of the tax code.
Yep.
Or an ecclesia. And you, as a member of our trust, as a member of our ecclesia, you learn how to operate that way. Now you have a quote unquote offshore bank account. It's not. It's a completely different set of rules that we're operating under, but it is a separate jurisdiction. Now, you have all your eggs in one commercial basket. Do you have the wherewithal to learn why the wealthy are wealthy, how they operate, and how you can take one egg out of that basket and diversify into an iCovesting account, and the power that that could help unleash for your small business or just your family's bills in general, whatever you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, it's just kind of thinking about everything you're talking about right now is the next level for what small business owners want to do is not only do they want to build kind of like a small empire per se of cash flowing businesses, right? Eventually, it's what we want to do with the money that we make, right?
Yeah.
So that's talking about putting traditionally with other people, it'd be putting money into retirement accounts or real estate or all this or the stock market, what have you, right? But that was always in the commercial jurisdiction.
Correct.
Which is like, I thought I was diversified. Nope, like you said, that's all your eggs in essentially one basket.
You know, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, 2010, like, I mean, you were diversified. I'm not saying you made bad choices up to this point. I'm saying there's a new game in town. I'm saying the last two administrations, all of the created capital out of thin air, quote unquote, created capital, printing of money and injecting it into the system, this global pandemic. The CBDCs that the central banks are trying to come up with right now are switching from fiat to some form of crypto or a stable coin in general. Like, the United States has never been so fragile economically. And you, as a person participating in that system, having all your eggs in a fiat system, and you have no control over the Federal Reserve's monetary policy. Any day you wake up, a change happens, you're affected. How are you diversified if one change from an administration or a monetary policy at the highest level down can affect every asset class that you're participating in? That doesn't sound like diversification to me.
No.
That sounds like all your eggs are in one basket and you're gonna get hit hard.
Yep. That's a state of vulnerability, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in a place of leadership or whatnot, and you're responsible for a lot of people, if your business is in that state of vulnerability, like all the people that you're responsible for, you know, they're in that realm with you. And so whatever kind of affects your kind of businesses is going to affect them.
Yeah.
And so to be able to not only help yourself, right? Like the people that you're responsible for, you can help as well.
Correct.
Another thing that I wanted to expound upon, like touch again on is that leveraging of the whole life insurance. Again, if a small business wants to go leverage against a whole life insurance policy, and to be able to make a move to either purchase equipment or say to expand on the business, the money made from that loan or whatnot,
correct,
is that tax accepted?
The money made from the loan is made for the trust. The trust made the money. The trust loaned the money, and the trust accepted that plus an additional amount of interest. You know, like cost us 2.5 to get it. We loaned it at 5. You might have paid it back or leveraged it at 5. You might have recourse that leverage at 5 or at 7.5, whatever. That extra on top of that, that's paid back to the trust, and that is trust business. That's mandatorily tax accepted.
Gotcha.
And if you're a member of the whole life insurance, you're helping yourself.
That's it right there. But you're still kind of playing in the commercial jurisdiction through fiat, and also playing in the
correct.
Yes.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Where is the safest place to store fiat money? Whole life insurance. By far, bar none. Whole life insurance. The government guarantees it. After 2 years, the government can't even confiscate it from you by law.
Yeah,
it's the safest place.
Yeah.
And if it's guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the American government, If they fail and resubmit something like, the Federal Reserve fails, the Treasury has to issue Treasury notes, and whether we go to crypto or to gold, doesn't matter. A new form of currency will need to be issued. You think the massive insurance companies are going to go under? No. The full faith and credit of the United States government is going to pull you out of that. So that's where wealthy people store their fiat.
Yeah.
And they leverage it from those positions to acquire assets. Now, what acquired the asset? Was it an LLC in the commercial jurisdiction that put together a syndication and acquired an asset? Oh, you're getting taxed. But if you're an ecclesia, a 508c1a, doing the setting the game up with members who are members of the trust, bona fide participants in what we do, and then they all get royalty rewards back to their iCovesting accounts. Now we're lawful and legal 100%. There's no taxation here.
Yeah, that's amazing. And kind of we talked about a lot of things today, right? And for someone that's just first hearing this, it's like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
I'm like, because you're talking commercial jurisdiction, like different jurisdictions. What is all this? I'm like, okay, what can kind of bring that all together in a simple form is what we've been working on, which is the wallet, right?
Correct.
And like, oh, that's way too complicated for me to like
think. Like
I need to like learn about all this stuff. Like essentially what we've kind of, all the access to the opportunities that you just talked about is gonna be simplified to this wallet.
For sure.
Wallet. And all the, if you want to stick to ICOD, you have access to that. Because people are worried about like, if all my money's in gold and silver or whatnot, I can't go out and people aren't accepted. So yeah, it's not fungible. People aren't gonna accept my silver or gold.
Yeah, they're not confident in other people.
Yeah, like, where's your money? Give me your dollar or whatnot. I'm like, okay, well, what this wallet essentially does is whatever the world is operating on, you're gonna have access to still participate where it's fungible, right?
Correct.
And you can, wherever the world is going, you can actually kind of pivot off
back
that
and forth,
back and forth to make sure you're in a position, the safest position or the most advantageous position that whatever's happening in the world
for you and your goals, right?
Exactly, and the people that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And so I know we talked about it a lot, and because the first time I kind of heard all this information, I'm like, oh wow, I need to do some more research on this stuff. But that's the game changer. I think the wallet is going to be a game changer because there's a lot of talk about crypto, NFTs like Bitcoin or whatnot, and what houses all those together is the wallet.
And I'm glad you brought Bitcoin up just briefly so we could touch on it, because the Biden administration also classified Bitcoin as a capital gains worthy event, cryptocurrencies in general. So if you have your cryptocurrency over a year, it's now going to be classified as a capital gain when you go to sell it. So you could have had it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You're not planning on selling it. Don't worry about it. It's not affecting you yet. But when you go to sell it, you will be hit at the current capital gain rate, which is 47.5%. So let's say you had 100K in Bitcoin, right? And you wanted to cash out your 100K. Well, say bye-bye to 50, right?
Yeah, exactly.
47.5%'s gone.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So do you want to give it to Uncle Sam? I mean, if you do, by all means, bend over and give it to him. But if you don't have to, what you can do is you can direct that from your Bitcoin position or many other crypto positions that are going to be in our wallet, and you can transfer them over into either ICO dollar, ICO silver, ICO gold, AG or AU, and that's not a capital gains. That's not taxable. It's a mandatorily tax accepted. You as a member of our trust can absolutely direct your wealth into our wallet for the purpose of furthering the ecclesia and syndicating together or just protecting your wealth. And you have to understand, why you'd want to do that, the rules that you can now play by since you have done this, and what this has opened you up to be able to accomplish. But you really have to understand, why it works and how it works to effectively use it as the tool that it's designed to be, right? But for people that are in those scenarios that have this daunting capital gains tax burden, that they're just like, damn, I want to sell this position, but maybe I should wait for the next administration to see if it goes down or something. Like, that's a lot of money to give to the government. Well, that sucks, being in a place of scarcity like that, you know? I mean, I can give you a solution where you can, if you needed it, you could do it right now. All you have to do is transfer it over. You have access to your capital, and you're off to the races. What do you want to do? We can have a conversation about that. If you as a business are you accepting Bitcoin, you know, in transactions? If you are, let's talk, because you have a huge tax burden coming if you're holding it over a year. You could also accept, hey, you want to pay in Bitcoin, you want to pay in ICO dollar, ICO AG, ICO AU. You as a business owner could even have your ICO dollar account or your IBA account in general, however you want to store it in the account. And you could use it as a means of giving your employees better retention packages. You know, like how a company would use a 401k with a growth rate, you know, and that kind of thing. You can use the same principle in one of our syndications that the business is participating in. Let's say the syndication has a cash on cash growth rate or an annual cash on cash return of X, right? And if you as a business owner are like, oh, this has been performing very well, and I can count on this performance because this is performing so well, and it's historically been this way, I want to offer this as, you know, not profit sharing, but a royalty sharing to one of my employees, or, you know, my top tier employees, or maybe all your employees, or whatever it is, because you know how hard it is to retain top talent sometimes. And as a business owner, it's expensive to retain top talent. But if you're already in this position and you're already mitigating a lot of taxes from this position and cash flowing from this position, I mean, it seems like a great opportunity to also maybe give your employees a little bit more benefits so that they can retain more. Maybe your word of mouth will grow, more people want to work for you. It all comes into the growing your business game. It's just another element, depending on how far you want to take this concept. It can be applied to business across the board.
Absolutely. I love everything that you kind of talked about, because we kind of talked about different spaces all at once, right? And it doesn't matter what space you're in. If you feel one way about you want to keep a cash position, fine. If you want to keep a gold position or a silver position, great. If you want to keep a Bitcoin or other crypto position, that's fine. Like, we can all play in the same game. And then kind of what you're talking about as far as opportunities for employee retention or whatnot. Everybody out there, again, like, the amount of work to create a small business, not everyone's kind of willing to do, right?
Correct.
But if all the small business owners have already been kind of doing this, but can essentially give an opportunity, like extend a hand to our employees or whatnot, to participate in something amazing. Like, it's already mind-blowing to me as a business owner, but somebody that's kind of been just concentrating on themselves, like, oh wow, like, it's not just all on me, right? I can participate with a community to actually grow my wealth.
Correct.
And that's the power of what we got going on, because as a small business owner, you also kind of rely on your network of other small business owners.
Absolutely.
Like, you bounce off ideas, and if you bring to the table, like, hey, we got this going on, this is probably going to work out for you. And like, you're not just going to directly benefit me, you're going to directly benefit the whole economy that kind of participates. Right. And so doesn't matter where you feel the economy is going, or whether it's going to be in cash position, Bitcoin, gold and silver, we're going to be ready for it.
Correct.
It doesn't matter. And so that's what we talk about, diversification, and being able to pivot at a moment's notice. Right. And that's super powerful.
True.
Because that's what a small business owner wants to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you said the diversification of the jurisdiction at that point too, because a small business owner could obviously put a bunch of gold and silver in a Brink safety deposit box. But that's squarely in the commercial jurisdiction. Twice already we have had gold confiscation happen in this country. FDR signed an executive order in 1934, and Nixon used it again in 72. when we converted when he suspended the convertibility of the dollar to gold temporarily. Then he got impeached, and we've been off it ever since. Our dollar is just devaluing. It's going to need to be underpinned eventually by something that holds value. And if you think that the last administration or this one or the ones going forward aren't going to be crazy enough to confiscate it from the people, again, to make sure that this economy stays strong, that we're the #1 GDP producing nation in the world, that we don't want to lose that #1 spot. So what are they going to do? Well, they'll use the same executive order already on the books. They don't even need to write a new one. Just use the one that's there. And they'll issue it, and they'll say, by this date, every American citizen who owns these precious metals needs to turn them into the government at this fair market value, whatever they deem the value is at that day. And then they'll give you a window to turn them into your local treasury windows. And you'll sell it to them. And when that window closes, it'll be a federally illegal metal that you're in possession of if you didn't turn it in. So what does Brinks do? Or what does the bank do? Or what does any of these safety deposit boxes do? They get a letter from the federal government. It says, hey, give me a list of all of your people that have safety deposit boxes that are in possession of this federally illegal metal, and turn it over to us. We'll give you the money for it, and you're going to give it to them because that's the law now. And if you refuse to comply, we're going to pull your ability to do business as a company in this commercial jurisdiction. Your banking license, your whatever, So they're not going to have your best interest in mind. They want to stay in business. By all means, lift up the skirt, give it to the government, and that's business as usual. So are you diversified if you hold gold and silver in a commercial jurisdiction? You're not. The true diversification happens when you hold it in trust, because and not just any trust, there's commercial trusts, right? This is a sovereign ecclesiastical trust recognized under 508c1a, and it has its own United Nations security clearance. We're our own sovereign state, where it's a completely different jurisdiction than the United States of America and the commercial games they run within. We're not a United States of America regulated or operated entity. We're a global entity and recognized globally. So if you understand how to store your wealth in trusts like ours, now you truly have diversification. Now when the government says, hey, we need everything in those things and your safety deposit boxes, or if the government tries to in any way, shape, or form say to us, hey, you have these members here, and what do they have? Sorry, federal government, you have no jurisdiction here whatsoever. These are the rules. These are the rules you laid out. This is how we're operating. This is our legal defense is already well prepared for if that were to ever happen, because we're lawful and legal completely. There's no way we would acquiesce to any government request of any way, shape, or form. They have no jurisdiction here. They made the rules. They gave us the clearance. We're just following them. So we're just trying to show people what exists, why it exists, how it exists, and show them how they can direct their wealth accordingly to truly protect themselves against these concepts of risk that we've been talking about this whole time.
And speaking about that, the ecclesiastical jurisdiction is what I've kind of seen is like the wallet that we're kind of developing. A lot of people are developing wallets as well. They got a dollar, they got a gold, they got a silver, ready to be ready for whatever is to come, right? But like you said, that's still all in the commercial jurisdiction. And so what we bring to the table is like there's nothing like it. And so that makes me excited as a small business owner, because if I'm trying to do this by myself, there's no way. Right. So the only way we can be able to accomplish something like this is to come together. And that's what makes me excited.
Same, bro.
Besides that, like just seeing you for the first time, it was really really cool, because we've known each other for about over a year.
It's coming up too, bro.
Almost.
Time flies.
Almost 2 years. And so what we accomplished here is super important, and it's super exciting, and I'm excited to what's to come.
Yeah, me too, bro. I appreciate you coming out, bro, and spreading this word and helping small business owners understand, one, what you do, and then two, what we do and how it relates to what any of them could potentially be doing in the economy. We're just trying to spread the word. If you're not an accredited investor, but you want to participate in real estate syndication, get with us. I mean, anybody can play. And let's just go out there and spread the word and try to impact the economy the best way we can, bro.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.